Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. A honeymoon that should have been filled with romance quickly turned into a nightmare when the bride was fatally poisoned by her own husband. The victim was Krista Chen Dawson, 36, a woman of Chinese descent. She and her husband traveled to Turtle Island, a famous resort in the Fiji Islands. Amid the stunning natural scenery, Krista never imagined that just 2 days later, she would meet a tragic end on this beautiful island. Meanwhile, her husband suddenly disappeared mysteriously, as if he had vanished from the face of the earth. The private paradise resort Turtle Island Resort in Fiji, part of the Yasawa Islands, is considered one of the most luxurious destinations in the area. On July 9, 2022, Krist and her husband arrived on the island for their honeymoon. That morning, they skipped breakfast. The private housekeeper intended to remind them, but noticed the Do Not Disturb sign on the door and didn't intervene. By lunchtime, the couple still had not appeared. This made the housekeeper uneasy. For a couple on their honeymoon, this was highly unusual. Moreover, other guests had complained that the previous night loud arguments and shouting had come from the couple's villa. The housekeeper decided to check, and after knocking with no response, used a spare key to enter. The scene was shocking. In the bathroom, blood was splattered everywhere, the toilet lid was shattered, and the window glass was completely broken. Krista Chen lay sprawled between the toilet and the wall, covered in injuries and already lifeless. Her husband Bradley Robert Dawson, who should have been by her side on their honeymoon, had completely vanished. Upon being informed, the resort management immediately contacted the police. The autopsy revealed Krist had multiple injuries, her face nearly destroyed, and her head showed signs of blunt force trauma causing internal bleeding, the primary cause of death. It was unimaginable the horror she endured that night. All of her personal documents, passport, wallet, and phone remained in the villa. Bradley's phone was also left behind, but his GPS watch was found on the beach and his passport and wallet were missing, raising immediate suspicion toward him. The police scoured the resort and surrounding islands, but found no trace of Bradley Robert. The couple had married in February of the same year, less than 6 months earlier. Wedding photos showed Christy radiant and affectionate toward her husband, appearing very happy. They should have been at the peak of their marital bliss. But what led to this horrific tragedy? And where did Bradley Robert go? Krista Chen was born into a Chinese family in Memphis, Tennessee. As an only child, she was raised in a loving and protective environment. In 2017, she returned to Tennessee to continue her studies. During this time, she excelled academically, winning an award in 2021 for her exceptional clinical communication skills. After graduating from the University of Tennessee, she was hired as a pharmacist at a supermarket pharmacy in Memphis. Krista loved sharing her life on social media, from travel photos with friends to images of her dog and everyday joyful moments, showing a bright, carefree, energetic life. She was also a skilled baker, professionally trained, and had run her own bakery in Denver. However, deep down, Krista always nurtured the dream of becoming a pharmacist. Beyond her daily work, she actively researched social factors affecting health, focusing especially on low-income areas. In 2015, at a bachelorette party organized by friends, Krista first met Bradley Robert Dawson. At that time, their relationship did not develop further. It wasn't until 6 years later, in 2021, that they coincidentally met again in Memphis. At that time, Bradley, 38, was working as an IT engineer at a private nonprofit organization called Youth Villages, which supports children and families with psychological, emotional, and behavioral challenges. According to Krist's friends, their shared interests in long-distance running and charity work eventually brought them closer, leading to a romantic relationship. Just 3 months after dating, they made a hasty decision to marry. Krist was extremely excited about the wedding planning and organizing the entire event in just 26 days. She joyfully told her friends that thinking about marriage and having children made her feel boundlessly happy. Their wedding took place at a historic hotel in Memphis. Although the ceremony had only about 20 attendees, it was warm and romantic. Yet many of Krista's friends were surprised at the sudden marriage, having barely met Bradley before. After the wedding, the couple lived in a newly purchased house in Memphis valued at $250,000 and eagerly prepared for their honeymoon in Fiji. Before departing, Christe shared with neighbors her excitement about experiencing a paradise-like honeymoon. No one imagined that her words would come true. In the most tragic way, she would meet her end forever on that beautiful island. After the incident, police continuously expanded their search for Bradley Robert Dawson. It took 36 hours before a local man provided a tip that led to locating him. The informant Ratulale, a resident of Matakawa Island, about 2 kilometers from the resort, reported seeing a lone man wandering on the island on the afternoon of July 10th. Bradley Robert Dawson. He was wearing a brown t-shirt and shorts, looking disheveled as if he had just woken up, appearing confused and anxious. His hands and feet had numerous bruises and bleeding, leading Ratulale to suspect he might have fallen into the sea and been cut by coral. Ratulale offered him water and food, but Bradley refused, insisting he was fine, and only asked for help in contacting the police. The heavily intoxicated man repeatedly insisted that they had argued, yet never once mentioned harming his wife. When asked what had happened, Bradley Robert claimed that he left his wife at the Turtle Island Hotel and departed at 2:00 a.m., paddling a kayak to Matakawa Island. However, at the time he was found, no kayak was near him, and it was never located afterward. These claims shocked Ratulale. Although the Yasawa Islands often see tourists, backpackers, and divers, he had never seen anyone make the journey from Turtle Island to Matakawa on their own, as most visitors were wealthy and accompanied by personal staff. Shortly after, a team of 3 police officers arrived on Matakawa Island. They found in Bradley Robert Dawson's possession Christe's passport, over $1,000 in cash, her credit card and driver's license. Police returned him to Turtle Island and then transferred him to Lautoka, where he was formally charged with murder. During the first interrogation, Bradley admitted to the act, but refused to sign a confession. Soon after, following a consultation with a lawyer, he retracted his statement and denied any involvement in his wife's death, also refusing to cooperate or provide DNA samples. Only after a court order did he reluctantly comply, claiming that both had been drinking and arguing that evening. He said he left to take a walk and paddled a kayak to the neighboring island to relieve tension and give his wife time to calm down. He admitted some pushing may have caused her to fall and get injured, but insisted she was still conscious when he left and that it was merely an accident. During his detention, Bradley displayed extreme grief. He claimed in interviews that his wife meant everything to him, that they had planned a happy life together, and now he lived in sorrow and longing. Yet his statements were riddled with contradictions and gaps. If he truly loved her, why leave a wounded woman alone in the room? Why seek no help, make no emergency calls, and instead take her passport money and flee at night? Bradley had known Christe for only 3 months before rushing into marriage. Could she have truly understood the man she trusted, despite his lack of prior criminal record? Was he truly the husband she believed him to be? After journalists contacted Bradley's ex-girlfriend, the truth began to emerge. Christine Baker revealed that Bradley had long been extremely hot-tempered. Back in 2005, while they were college students at the University of Tennessee, they had dated and quickly developed a deep relationship. Initially, Bradley appeared charming, making their relationship intense and passionate. He always craved wealth, travel, and a luxurious lifestyle. Notably, he had a peculiar obsession with Fiji, constantly repeating, "Fiji, Fiji, I have to go to Fiji." As the relationship deepened, Christine realized Bradley was extremely jealous, controlling, and prone to manipulation through both words and threats. Particularly whenever intoxicated, he reportedly became a completely different person, sometimes not even remembering his actions the next morning. Baker tried to leave him, but Bradley Robert pushed her onto the bed and physically assaulted her. It was only in the second year of their relationship that Baker finally ended it completely. She recalled, "When I truly wanted to leave him, he would push me onto the bed, chase after me. He always used words to control and manipulate me with jealousy." Furthermore, Baker revealed a shocking detail before marrying Christe Bradley. Robert had previously been married. He was born in Middletown, New York. According to divorce documents filed in Sansari H. Shelby Court, he married for the first time in September 2019 in Fiji. About 2 years later, in September 2021, He filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences, stating they had no children. They quickly reached a property settlement and officially divorced on May 10, 2022. Just 1 month later, he married Krista. This indicates that during his courtship with Krista, he was still legally married. Given Krista's sincere and trusting nature, it's likely she had no knowledge of this. Had she known, she probably would not have rushed into marriage. The pattern of Bradley Roberts' relationship with Krista mirrored that with Baker: fast, intense love. Unlike Baker, Krista could not escape in time, and ultimately paid with her life. Clearly, from the wedding to the tragic honeymoon, everything was built on deception. Despite Bradley Roberts' persistent denial, the police needed additional evidence. They began investigating other guests present that night. Some reported that on the evening of July 8th, the couple attended a party called Fun Family Night on the island. Initially cheerful drinking and dancing, both became intoxicated. In his impaired state, Bradley Robert reportedly acted inappropriately with other women, which angered Krista. They argued violently and left the party to continue fighting on the beach. Near midnight, they returned to the villa, yet the tension remained. A guest in a neighboring room reported hearing a woman scream, followed by a loud crash. The next morning, the guest complained to the hotel about the noise. Based on witness statements and the unsigned confession, police reconstructed the events. Bradley initially admitted that they had consumed large amounts of alcohol, including a local traditional drink called kava. Upon returning, they argued, though he claimed not to remember the reasons. Back at the villa, they changed into sleepwear. He tried to embrace his wife to reconcile, but Christie pushed him away angrily, saying she needed time to think about their relationship. The argument escalated from the bedroom to the bathroom. In the scuffle, Christie pushed him, causing Bradley Robert to lose control. They grappled, resulting in a shattered toilet and broken bathroom glass, leaving a chaotic scene. When the incident ended, he saw his wife injured, bloodied, curled up on the floor. Instead of seeking help, he left the villa, went for a walk to relieve stress, and eventually paddled a kayak to Mattakawa Island. However, the kayak was never found, and his statements continued to reveal glaring inconsistencies. From Bradley Robert Dawson's initial statements and other witness accounts, it can be confirmed that on the night of the incident, he and Christie argued after both had consumed alcohol. Beyond Bradley Roberts' inappropriate behavior at the party, Krista's family attorney later suggested that she may have learned from resort staff that Bradley Robert had previously taken his ex-wife to spend a honeymoon at the very same Turtle Island. This could explain why Bradley Robert was reluctant to disclose the reason for their argument. In the early hours of that morning, tensions in the villa escalated, leading to a severe physical altercation. Based on the crime scene and Christ's head injuries, police suspected that Bradley Robert struck his wife's head forcefully with the toilet lid, causing the fatal wound and breaking the lid. Given the brutality of his actions, it was clear that Bradley Robert could not claim it was an accident. Christie suffered extensive injuries. Bradley Robert himself may have feared the consequences of his actions. He then went for a walk on the beach to consider how to respond. A night security guard also confirmed seeing Bradley Robert walking around the island before returning to the villa. It is likely that at that moment he began planning his escape. After returning to the villa, he took Christie's passport, wallet, and driver's license, intending to flee to Viti Levu and then leave Fiji. However, with no boats available at night, he attempted to kayak, mistakenly ending up on Mattakawa Island, where he was later discovered. After being charged with murder, Bradley Roberts' attorney told the media that his client had been in a state of panic for several days, barely able to speak. The lawyer claimed that he was deeply distressed, plunged into despair, and then gradually recovered. But whether his suffering was due to his wife's death or fear of facing punishment is something each person can decide for themselves. The true sufferers were Krista's parents. Upon receiving the grim news, they initially thought it was a cruel joke. The honeymoon at Turtle Island, a gift they had given their daughter and son-in-law, was meant to be a sweet escape. They never expected it to end in tragedy. 3 days later, the couple flew to Fiji. Seeing their daughter's battered body, they were overwhelmed with grief and regret. The situation was made more tragic as Kriste's injuries were so severe that the hospital warned that embalming chemicals could leak, advising the family not to transport the body. Consequently, she was cremated in Fiji before her remains were returned to the US. However, this procedure was questioned by former New York Chief Medical Examiner Baden. He argued that even soldiers' bodies from battlefields are transported intact in coffins for repatriation, so Christie's body could have been sent to the US for further forensic examination. If anyone advised the family against transporting her body, it may have been intentionally misleading. After a week-long trial at the Lautoka High Court in Fiji, the presiding judge declared Bradley Robert Dawson guilty of murder. He will remain in custody in Fiji until May 27, 2025, when the formal sentencing will take place. He is expected to receive a life sentence. The case is now considered closed, but there are important lessons to be learned. Domestic violence is often a recurring cycle, not limited to a single incident. The first time may involve insulting words followed by reconciliation. The next time it could escalate to pushing or slapping, then reconciliation again. Over time, the violence intensifies. Therefore, even at the first sign, whether a slap or harsh words, one should take the relationship seriously. Even if the initial harm seems minor, it could very well be the beginning of an unending cycle of abuse. Today's story ends here. What are your thoughts on this case? Leave a comment and share your perspective with us. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.